brings it to a bit more of a monitoring topic, Fredrik. So monitoring and long-term system visibility are becoming increasingly important, so especially within the commercial and industrial sectors. So why should businesses care about monitoring beyond simple checking whether the system is producing the power?
So I can plug a little bit of a product that we supply now, which is great, thank you. So we are the exclusive distributors for meter control for this very specific reason, all related to integrating systems. Because we know that system owners must have contestable data. So I'm repeating myself a little bit from what we spoke about earlier, but it's critically important. And as an asset owner, look, I did this, whenever I meet someone who owns an existing solar system, whether they own it outright or whether they have a PPA, and I've been doing this for years. Every time I meet someone, I went to a factory when I was an EPC or a funder, and the first question I ask is, how much money have you saved? And I hesitate to guess that a single one of them could answer that question, primarily because they didn't monitor their system, and if they did, it was the facility manager or the previous guy who then left and didn't teach them and lost the login detail, and you know, look, the things are on the roof and the inverter, the lights come on, I guess we're saving money. I mean, so, and this has changed, right, since we had grid tie only, and now we have storage, and now we have access, everyone's on their phone, people are logging in. I've got a Victron system at home, I'm on my little VRM, my wife is saying, hey, why did I put electricity in this month? I'm like, oh, why did you? And then I must check quickly and see what happened, you know, it was a geyser timer on or something. Anyway, the net result of all of this is, again, it's contestable data. People, especially if you include storage, even though that the payback periods have improved, the total net cost of the systems has gone up because we've included storage, and there's complexity there. So it's a lot more to manage, a lot more to maintain. So that's why monitoring is critically important. That's why we believe, and we've chosen one particular product because we have access to it and we distribute it, but we do it because we recognize how important it is for our clients, their clients, because they need to be able to monitor it. Because if something goes wrong, doing it retrospectively without having data is nigh impossible. It's like if you, I mean, look, maybe you have or haven't had this experience, incorrect billing from the municipality. So I've had this, I've had water billing problems. Yeah. So what do? You don't call the municipality, you'll never reach anyone. You email some group, whatever, and you say, listen, I got to the power of 10 charged more for my water. Yeah, I'll pay the bill. You'll never reach anyone. You email some group, whatever, and you say, listen, I got to the power of 10 charged more for my water. Yeah, I'll pay the bill, and then we'll have a look afterwards. And you say, no, that's not right. I'm not doing that. No, we'll cut you off then. So imagine if we all had water monitoring, smart metering of electricity. If you lived in Joburg, City Power, and you got R1 million electricity bill, some people got 5 billion. So that tells you that this is what it is. It's an important measure to have contestable data. That's basically what it is. Funders need it because they've got to prove their invoice. Owners need it to ensure that they're not getting screwed by the asset owner. And you have to be able to argue with Eskom or your municipality, unfortunately. So that's really the short and long of it.
So basically, visibility is quite important for determining long-term performance as well as your return on investment.
Yes.
So grid compliance and power control are also becoming major discussions in South Africa. I'm going to throw this question to whoever is happy to answer. But how do you see businesses preparing for these changes?
I don't know if they are. They leave it up to the IBC, to you guys.
Grid compliance, it's for us. I think we're ahead of the curve. We're very lucky. We've got a whole team of people working on all the time. I think we comply to around 27 grid codes around the world at the moment. So it's a challenge, and it's ever changing. So Africa's not that bad. If you look at countries like Australia, that's really bad. But Africa changes every few years. So but it's very important to keep up with the safety regulations and the safety of the people working on the grid. So it's challenging, but it needs to be done. yeah, we're a European company, so we kind of held accountable. Other countries and things, we're not sure how they actually do that. And what we hear from people and how products behave in the field and certain things, it's sometimes it's alarming. So we'd like to see more control from the municipality, more monitoring, more in the field and certain things. It's sometimes it's alarming. So we'd like to see more control from the municipality, more monitoring, more assessing those things. Yeah, so hopefully that changes in the future.
Stefan, so from an installer perspective, touching on what Fredrik has said, how important has remote monitoring and system visibility become to managing customer expectations and ongoing support?
I want to start with the story, I told Andrew the story. A good example, your client builds a house, very nice house, it's a fancy holiday house. All of a sudden, the architects and the clients, I get these emails. I'm using 200 kilowatt hours a day. Is the solar working? I'm like, log in. You've got to log into the solar. You can look yourself. But let's look at it. This house, there's nobody living in it. It's a holiday house, and it uses 200 kilowatt hours a day. And then they come to us and say, oh, but your system's working. I'm like, it's working.
And therefore it comes on.
Yeah, like, then I went there and realized, but all the geysers are on. Literally, all of them are on all the time, and it's like 600-liter geysers with these pumps, and there's a wine cellar, and there's all these things are running, but nobody cares about it. Like, it's just on, it's just there, the electrician doesn't worry about it. And from that we went and said, okay, it's a big Victron system. I think it's a 45 kVA three-phase system actually in this house. And we went and said, okay, let's put in monitoring on the wine cellar, and let's put in monitoring on the walk-in fridge, and let's put monitoring on the geysers, and we can control the geysers, and we can see the temperature around them, and we brought it down to like 80 now.
Oh, wow.
But still, because the house is so complex, there's still loads that we're trying to figure out. And that's just one argument, or not an argument, but that's one example of where remote monitoring comes into place. And I had this little conversation with the architects going, solar doesn't make your house energy efficient.
Sometimes it can be reversed.
Yeah. It's the equipment in your house and how you manage it that makes it energy efficient. It starts there.
And the behavior,
you can't just have these big equipment and leave it on and say, oh, I'm not going to worry about it.
I've
got solar. And that comes back to what Fredrik was saying. You put in a system by a client, and 6 months later he phones you like, I'm not saving any money. I'm like, and then you go online and you look
more,
and he's using more because it's free now. Yeah. So all of a sudden his consumption has jumped to 40%. And I'm like, but you're using more power. How can it be? Like, because, I think it's so for us that's important, that the remote monitoring, we actually on a Victron site, except if it's an off-grid client living somewhere in the Karoo and the internet's really horrible and there's no Starlink, we go like, okay, other than that, if we don't have online monitoring, we can't warrant your product. Because we don't know what's going on that side. We don't know, is it a battery problem? Is it a battery problem? Is it a solar problem? Is it an MPPT problem? Where's the problem? So if we don't have remote monitoring, we can't give a guarantee on it. And that's very important. And through the remote monitoring, you can always upsell. So I use it as upsell. So I would go onto a client that I've maybe not seen in a year, quickly print all the data for him, how much he saved, what he's done, put a whole report for him. And I'll ring him up and say, hey, can I come visit you? I haven't seen you in a year. You maybe see my technicians. I'll go pop in there, put it down, say, look here, this is how much you saved, but we could save you more. Put in, upgrade your batteries. You maybe got enough solar. Let's put in, save more money, and you do it as an upsell. Because solar is quite difficult in a sense. If you do a good job, you do it once, and that client, and you're done. You've sold it once to a client. Where rather use that opportunity, keep that client, keep him happy, and then you've got something to go back on. Every year I'll make a turn by the client, and I'll just have a little conversation, a nice coffee, say this is what you do, this is what you can save. Did you know battery prices have come down 30% from last year? All those things. So that's for me an angle I use on monitoring to actually upsell my product and go back to a client.
Becomes a tool in your toolbox.
Yeah. Except for all the other stuff with our SLAs where we put up automated monitoring, so if one of the sites go down, Victron sites are very nice because it's got a whole dashboard for you. When I open it in the morning, all my problematic sites are at the top and will tell me what is wrong. And I can phone a technician and say, look, phone that client, or let's see what's going on there. Or, like, one thing that happened was there's a mismatch in the DC bus and the battery's voltage because something went wrong. So before the site even went down, I saw, but there's a massive mismatch of like 5 or 6 volts. There's definitely something wrong. And you can send out someone, can have a look at it before the client actually notices it.